Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update. We've got quite a few things to talk about here across the Atlantic here tonight. One thing that I would like to point out first is our surface analysis. Now, our surface analysis from the National Hurricane Center is showing us with a tropical wave here. We have Gabrielle. We do have a tropical storm named. Another wave here, and then an area of low pressure that is now highlighted on the 2 p.m. tropical outlook that is still over the African mainland. This one here, if you notice, is creating a lot of shower and thunderstorm activity in and around the Western Caribbean. We are not worried about tropical cyclone development with this one. The second wave is located right in here. You could see a little bit of rotation, but it is missing a considerable amount of convection. Doesn't really have a lot of thunderstorm activity. We have Gabrielle right here. We have our second wave here, and our other one that is back here. It's nowhere near what it looks like here on satellite. This is limb cooling at this point. It's something that I won't get into, but it'll show up a lot stronger than what it really is from the GOES satellite, just due to the angle that it is looking at it. So, again, we'll come back here and take a look. Gabrielle is obviously going to be our top story, but our other two waves. We have disturbance number one. Now, disturbance number one is this feature right here. Okay? That currently has a 10% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days. Disturbance number two, the one that is currently still located on the African mainland, has a 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours and then a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days. We might only have a 20% chance of development on this disturbance number one. We're going to need to keep a very close watch on that one. The models are back and forth with it, and there's some signals that I do not like what I'm looking at today. So let's get here and deal with Gabrielle first, because Gabrielle had a center reformation this morning, and then also on top of that is a big time potential threat for the residents of Bermuda. So currently we are located at 19.4 north, 48.0 west, about 990 miles east of the northern Leeward Islands. Maximum sustained winds are 50 miles an hour, moving northwest at 14 miles an hour with a minimum central pressure of 1,005 millibars. There are currently no coastal watches or warnings in effect, and currently no hazards affecting land. I use the word currently. Key word there. As we can see with the experimental cone tied to the interactive map, we can see that the wind field is kind of quite wide there on the eastern and northern side for a 50-mile-an-hour tropical storm. This is forecast to remain a tropical storm over the next few days, and then as it starts to pull northward, the National Hurricane Center is calling for it to attain hurricane strength. But the forecast for intensity and potential track are quite low. We will go over the discussion here momentarily. But as you could see, our friends here in Bermuda are located within the western side of the cone of uncertainty for Monday. So, with impacts potentially arriving sometime on Sunday night. So, all of our friends here in Bermuda, please, please, please keep a very close watch on Gabrielle as we continue to get it a little better organized and we start to get a little bit more. A little bit more data from it. It's still way too far out to even attempt to try to fly any kind of hurricane reconnaissance. But maybe as it gets a little bit closer, they'll be able to try to get something out there to improve the models. Now, taking a look at our spaghetti plots, I am going to highlight the island of Bermuda. It is right there. As you could see, there is an awful lot of these spaghetti plots that are into the region. One concern that I happen to have is if we look at this cluster right here, this is the H wharf, halves A and B, TC coamps, and the GFS. Now, all of these want to bring it up and potentially bend it this way. The majority of the guidance wants to take it up and away, but there is a little bit of uncertainty, and it all is going to depend upon exactly how strong this thing wants to get, and then its interactions with an upper level low that I will show you here momentarily. Now that we have Gabrielle named, we can pull out the consensus models. We can get all of that information here from Brian Tang's website at University of Albany. One thing that I would really like to point out, this is the official forecast, and as you could see, the center reformation this morning was quite significant. And we are honestly waiting on the models to kind of recognize exactly where we're at. Some models have, some models haven't just yet. They've had to initialize, and we haven't. With the 11 a.m. advisory Eastern Daylight Time, that's when we received the center jump information. The 12Z models had already initialized prior to that center jump. So it will be very interesting to see what the 18Z and again the 0Z models show. So what we're looking at here tonight still could be a little, quite a bit of uncertainty and some variables remaining. But if we take a look at the consensus, as you can see, the consensus has been shifting more and more to the north and to the east. And that is a good sign with our intensity models coming down on the consensus, which is also another good sign, because if this were to get close to Bermuda, we obviously don't want this thing ripping into, category 4 or 5 status. Now, the reason that what I was explaining as far as the models initializing and everything, this is a perfect example. So here we have the 12Z H wharf. As you could see, the H wharf initialized here. The storm is here. So it is initializing on this launching point and track when it should be initializing on this point and track. So the models right now are going to be off as far as trying to initialize exactly where this was. And that could change things for the better for Bermuda, but we don't know yet. So now I'm going to throw in halves, and as you could see here, halves initialized here with the point and initialized close, brought it up to here and then pushed it over like this, but the next location was here. So we're going to have to wait and see exactly what the launching point, what the new launching point is going to turn out to be. All right, our earliest reasonable arrival time of tropical storm force winds for our friends here in Bermuda is Sunday 8 a.m. Most likely arrival time would be sometime right after sunset on Sunday, if this all remains the same after we get our new models with the center relocation. So right now, folks in Bermuda are highly encouraged and highly recommended to monitor the progress of Gabrielle very, very closely, very intently. Make sure that you follow your official sources here. as you can see here with the official Bermuda um, meteorological agency, and you get a lot of quite a bit of information from these folks here. They have not issued any type of disclaimer, bulletin, advisory, nothing like that yet, because it's a little too early. But folks in Bermuda definitely need to keep a very, very close watch on this as we go forward. As you can see, with the current forecast track, Bermuda is located in this yellow area right here of 30 to 40% right here that would almost certainly trigger watches, at the minimum watches, if it holds that, and potentially warnings at that point as well. So, uh, unless something changes, Bermuda would see impacts, whether it be direct or indirect. That is too early to say. So now we are here at our discussion regarding Gabrielle, and tonight we are going to read this whole thing because there's all three paragraphs are important. So the biggest change with Gabrielle today has been that the center has reformed farther to the north compared with the previous advisory, similar to earlier model forecasts. While satellite imagery continues to indicate an elongated circulation with multiple embedded swirls, it has become better defined than this morning, and we have continued to make the center position on the advisory a mean of those swirls. A second scatterometer pass that intersected the northern semicircle of the storm after the 15Z advisory did show a large area of 40 to 45 knot winds. Therefore, the initial intensity has been increased to 45 knots, even though the system does not appear appreciably more organized. The first part of the track forecast has been shifted to the north based on the recent center reformation. Gabrielle is moving northwestward now, and a west-northwest to northwestward track is anticipated for the next few days due to steering from the subtropical ridge. The fundamental forecast question for both track and intensity is related to the wind shear Gabrielle will experience and the structural change. Little intensity change is shown for the next couple of days while the storm remains in a high shear but high sea surface temperature and instability environment. There actually appears to be good consensus that the shear will relax after Friday, but there are significant model differences on how much. This leads to a considerable amount of track and intensity spread as the forecast progresses into the weekend. Generally, the models that relax the shear more substantially, to around 10 knots or less, show more intensification and a track to the right of model consensus. Since the NHC forecast is a bit above the model average, similar to the last prediction, we favor a track forecast to the right of the model blend, more consistent with the HCCA corrected consensus, the Google DeepMind ensemble, and the Euro ensemble. Overall, forecast confidence remains relatively low. Let me repeat that again. Overall, forecast confidence remains relatively low. Based on the recent trends, this system should pass well east and north of the Windward and Leeward Islands, but interests in Bermuda should monitor forecast during the next several days. Forecast remains relatively low on its confidence. I cannot stress that enough. Everybody, we just need to come back, pay attention, monitor, and see what is going on, because for the folks in Bermuda, this could be a potential impact. If we look at our intensity forecasts, like they said, being that the forecast confidence remains relatively low, these numbers are subject to change. Right now, we have it getting to day 4 before it reaches hurricane intensity. So that would be a good thing, that it would not intensify very much, if any at all, through the next 48 hours. This would be optimal if that can occur. We've already got it there. We don't want to see it get any stronger than what it already is. If we look at the intensity forecast, this gets kind of interesting because the H bond is up here, Cat 3. Only one calling for a major hurricane right now. You've got the H wharf right here at a Category 1, halves B at a Category 1, halves A barely gets this thing, keeps it as a tropical storm, weakens it a little bit, brings it back, minimal tropical storm. We can deal with that. The Google DeepMind is right here, as you can see, gets it up to at its high point here at Category 1. We'll say 85, maybe 90 miles an hour. And then we have our HCCA, which that is our consensus. So right now, as you could see with the hurricane specific models and the Google DeepMind, because I really like how it's been performing this year, plus our consensus, we have a wide variety of solutions that go from moderate to low end tropical storm all the way up to a major hurricane. So we need a little bit more time, a little bit more data, a little bit more information before we can have any type of confidence in what is going to occur. Now, we're going to work our way into the ensembles. Now, as we work our way into the ensembles, we are going to start potentially picking up signals from our other two waves that we have on the tropical outlook. Now, we've got the Euro legacy out 10 days. As we could clearly see, Gabrielle right here pulling out and going off well to the east of Bermuda, which is located right there. We do not see anything else here into the Caribbean, though we do see a small signal here into the southwestern Gulf. And we've got a little bit of some signal here in and around the Bahamas. This feature here could resemble what we had coming up into the mid-Atlantic states yesterday and the day before, which was probably, well, I can't say probably, but I believe personally that it will receive a subtropical classification in the post-season analytics that occurs from the National Hurricane Center after the 2025 season ends. I would not be surprised if that gets named. Well, at least classified. It won't get named. It will not be Gabrielle because this is Gabrielle, but we would end up with the potential of a no-named subtropical system added to the basin totals as we get after the end of the season. So this is our EPS 10-day. Now, I don't like to push it out past 10 days at all. You really have, the skill really starts to go down after day 7. By the time we get to 10, we are pushing it to its absolute nth degree as far as its skill is concerned. And really anything after 10 has no skill. But there's something that I do need to show. And if we get into day 12, we start to get some signal here. Maybe a Central American gyre, a little bit more of a signal into the Bahamas, a little bit more of a signal into the southwestern Gulf. Why am I showing you guys this? Because if we take a look and we compare it to the Euro AI, now as you can see, this goes out 10 days. We've got Gabrielle, staying well east of Bermuda. For the majority, some of them do get a little bit too close. Couple little outliers drag it through. But look what happens when I get to day 12. Now, 10, 12. We get a large signal. Well, not large, but we start to get a decent signal here, here, and then even potentially here as well. So it has no idea where it wants to try to develop a low pressure system. But from the Euro legacy, now the Euro AI, we're pushing the limits, obviously, but we've got a little bit of just a little bit of corroboration from one to another saying, hey, we may need to watch that area. Well, let's compare it to the GEFS. Now, as we can see with the GEFS has, and I will need to point this out, we've got Gabrielle here, and then you have that disturbance number 2 is here. Disturbance number 1 runs that way. That's kind of the catalyst for what we see there in the Caribbean from the Euro. Now, if I push it out day 12, we don't have much. All right, we get a little bit of a signal out here in the southwestern Gulf. We've seen that from the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook, 20 to 39%. So, okay, we're going to watch that. We get a little bit of something here that could be non-tropical, but we don't. What we don't get is this here. And that is obviously a good thing. But just starting to get a couple hints here. So maybe it's just something that we have to watch. We're pushing it again, taking it well beyond what is skillful within the models. The only thing is that legitimately all the models are showing the exact same thing. So here we have Google DeepMind. And as you can see with the Google DeepMind, there goes Gabrielle, gone. See you, goodbye. Potentially staying well east of Bermuda, although there are a couple outliers with the DeepMind. As we get to day 7, as you can see, we start to get some circles. Day 8, day 9, we're getting circles. We're getting a signal from disturbance 1, or that first wave, that we could see the development of something. All right, now, just for everybody to know that they don't look to be too powerful for the overall. If we look at the intensity distribution, they're not too overly powerful. There are a couple that are concerning depending on where this could potentially develop. But it's that one wave. It's that wave that I've been telling y'all for days. Look at this. Now, I'm out day 11 by this time. Now, granted, we are pushing the absolute extreme. But, again, it is a similar signal to what the other models are showing in that time frame. Is it going to be a truthful run? We don't know. I'll tell you that right now. But regardless, and I really don't, regardless what happens, I'm going to draw out the Caribbean right here. Okay? Now, if you get a developed system anywhere in this Caribbean, where's it going to go? It can't track out to sea. Well, it can, but it's got to go through populated areas to get there. I mean, just because, we might be based in the United States doesn't mean that we're not looking out for everybody. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what country you live in. That's the concern. If we get something down here, it could create considerable flash flooding for mountainous and elevated terrain. It could create, a whole mess of problems depending on where it is and what's its intensity. But just like the Gulf, if you get a storm into the Gulf, where's it gonna go? Unless it completely unravels and falls apart over open water. If it keeps going, it's going to hit land somewhere. And no matter where we go, people live on that land everywhere. It's definitely something to keep a very, very close watch on. We only have a 20% chance of development on it, but don't be fooled. Now, we're going to take a look at our 850 millibar cyclonic vorticity. This measures areas of spin and highlights areas of rotation approximately 1 mile above the ocean surface. We have the GFS on the right and the Euro on the left. If we run this forward, you will clearly see Gabrielle and it beginning to lift northward. We have that secondary wave that just kind of rolls through as a small burst of energy. Will it follow in a little bit more of a west-northwest track, or does it stay due west? If it goes a little bit west-northwest, then it gets up here into the southwestern Atlantic potentially, and not into the Caribbean. We want for everybody, including the folks here in the Bahamas. We don't want this in the Caribbean at all for any reason whatsoever. None. The Caribbean is rocket fuel. And as you can see with the Euro, we get out to day 10. Look. This, let me get to day 10 again. That's a seed. That's an area of energy right there. We've got our next wave right there, our other wave here, Gabrielle right there, and the Euro exited Gabrielle out way early, stage right. So as you can see, we definitely have to keep our eyes on this, folks. We're in that time of the year to where anything, no matter what, where it develops, we just have to keep a watch on it. We need to get through about, I'd say about Halloween, and at least the general threat for things from about 25 degrees northward kind of falls off as far as major impacts are concerned. But we're nowhere near Halloween. We're in the middle of September. We got weeks to go, folks. So what we have here is our humidity. We have our 500 millibar on the top. We have our 700 millibar on the bottom. Euro on the left, GFS on the right. For folks to really kind of get an understanding, our 500 millibar level is approximately 3.5 miles above the ocean surface. Our 700 millibar level is approximately 2 miles above the ocean surface. So what we want to know at this point is, where is the dry air that has been impeding most of the tropical cyclone development throughout the basin most of the season. As we continue to run this forward, we can see that there is a great amount of dry air in the 500 millibar level located to the north and to the northwest of Gabrielle. And even if we come back, it is also due west, as we can see here. That will have no choice but to try to entrain some of that dry air. It is going to have to cycle it out. It is going to deal with it. Now, we know that we have a moisture surge from the Euro, and here it comes. We are at day 7. Here is, we've already discussed Gabrielle, so we know that Bermuda is the big threat for Gabrielle. This is wave number 2, well, disturbance number 1. All right, there's the moisture pocket from it. As you can see here with the GFS, there is the moisture pocket, and there is the moisture pocket. The question is, where does that go from there? Does it stay north of the islands? Some of the AI models are saying no. And that would be a concern, because as we get out to this portion of the 10-day, granted, the GFS has it completely bracketed by dry air on the east and the west side here at the 500 millibar. Same feature at the 700 millibar. It's got the same thing over here for the most part where the Euro is calling for also. But those water temperatures down there are just absolutely smoking hot. So right now, um, it's just that time of year where we got to watch everything, folks. That's it. That's all I'm saying. Right now, we have no direct threat to land. Anybody, anywhere, at any point, other than Gabrielle and Bermuda. That's it. That's the only threat we've got in the Atlantic Basin right now. But we're seeing signals to where we could potentially see some threats down the road that get a little too uncomfortably, I can't say close. They're taking the wrong angle. That's it. They're at the wrong latitude. And granted, it's going to try to pull up and out, but if it gets too far south, it's got to go a lot further west to be able to make that turn. And at that point, that's a problem because if it is not north of 20 degrees north before it gets to 60 degrees west, you're dealing with populated landmass. Period. We seen it with Aaron. Aaron didn't achieve 20 degrees north before it hit 60 degrees west, and a whole bunch of indirect impacts occurred there to the northern Leeward Islands, the British Virgin Islands, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico, with a couple of the U.S. and British Virgin Islands undergoing some pretty extensive flooding and flash flood warnings. And that they got the flash flood warning and it didn't end anytime soon. It just kept coming for hours. So we would like to see things just remain. We don't want any direct impacts. If we're going to have anything, make it indirect and nothing too significantly powerful. So again, we have our Euro on the left and our GFS on the right, and these graphics represent our deep layer wind shear. This represents the winds with height all the way up to 39,000, 40,000 feet, all the way down to about 5,000 feet. So it is this entire mass of air where we're looking at right here. All right, and all of this in between. So, as we look at our wind shear, we will note that there are upper level low features associated in and around where, let me go back to, we'll get our bearings so everybody can watch them. So, we've got Gabrielle here. We'll put it here. We've got our upper level low feature that is creating a little bit of wind shear. We've got another upper level low feature creating a little bit of wind shear. We've got another upper level low here, wave number 2. We've got our upper level low here, upper level low here, and upper level low here. All of these are progressing this general direction. Gabrielle is coming up, and these two right here are going to meet. This is forecast to weaken. That shear and that extra dry air is what's forecast to keep Gabrielle weak over the next 48 hours. Now, as we run this forward, you can see that Gabrielle then potentially intersects and maybe has some type of interaction with the other low, as Gabrielle is right here. Gabrielle is right here on the GFS with our upper level low right there. So the first one that was just north of it is gone. There's this second one that it may have to contend with. That is going to increase some of the shear out of the southwest and could potentially interject a little bit of extra dry air into the core of the system itself, because the shear is present and the dry air is basically encapsulating it. So as we run this forward, we can see that that other upper level low pretty much dies out, ends up south of where what we had with Gabrielle, and then basically just falls apart. Now, as we run this forward, we will get it to day 7 because at that point we did note that the other wave or seed was right here. And as you could see, there's some shear here, some shear here, but not any shear here. There's land interactions, but not a lot of shear. The GFS wants to have the seed in a similar spot, but as we can see here, the shear remains quite high over the northern part, not into the Caribbean. So they flip-flop by the time that we get to day 7. You've got the shear component going through the Caribbean on the euro and the shear component going through the Caribbean, or the shear component going through the Caribbean on the euro and the southwestern Atlantic on the GFS. Big concern because it's just, does that seed, all you're looking for is a spark. You need the spark. You can have all the fuel you want, but you have to have the spark. That's the question. That's a big time question. As we could see getting into day 10, that spark is right there. The GFS doesn't really have much. This really isn't much at all. And you've got shear coming this way. You've got shear coming up this way with a digging trough in here. As for the euro, the trough is back further, digging in here, but leaving an area of lower shear values here, and this being an upper level anticyclonic high. That's a high pressure right there, sitting right there. This would be a problem if the euro verifies. Absolutely. This would be a problem. But thankfully, we are out 10 days and just hypothetically looking at things. I expect these to change tomorrow. And hopefully we come back tomorrow night with some optimism. Not what I'm looking at tonight, because I don't like it. Our dust model, as you can see, there is some dust. Quite a bit of it will be ushered back over Europe. These two waves could potentially drag that second wave, or disturbance number 2, as you could see it exiting the African mainland right here. And then that looks to be dragging a lot of dust. And it is very questionable as if that even makes it all the way across the tropical Atlantic, if it even gets to 50 degrees west. It's not a guarantee. All right, our nightly look at our Madden-Julian oscillation. As we can see, we are currently located right in here in this area. The models are bringing it back like this and potentially wanting to bring it back out in our neck of the woods later on, but it is all still fallen within the circle, so it doesn't have a lot of amplitude regardless one way or the other. Looking at Earth Null real fast, this is a great view. As we could see here, we'll put our trusty green circle at the very top of the wave axis, which is Tropical Storm Gabrielle there. We're going to jump up to the 250 millibar level, and as you can see, the upper level anticyclone, or the high pressure that is here. All right, you can see the winds coming around this way like this, winds coming around this way, coming back up this way, and then coming back around this way. And all of this area here is upper level divergence. All of the air is escaping and going out. But as you can see where our trusty green circle is, it is getting a little bit of this easterly, or winds from the west, and this shear here with the upper level low that it is going to have to contend with here and the second one waiting in the wings. So it's almost like a 1-2 punch with this. And with that center reformation to the north, it has kind of gotten itself on the very periphery of this upper level anticyclone. It's weak, but it's definitely there. But that's kind of what we're looking at right now. All right, let's jump out. We already know. Again, this came out yesterday. This is the Global Tropics Hazards Outlook from the Climate Prediction Center. If you take a look, the Southwestern Gulf, here September 24th through September 30th. And then we have a potential for CAG, or the Central American Gyre, from in the first week of October. So everything climatologically, it's all kind of lining up and matching up. So it is certainly things of concern and things that will have to be watched for. Now, jumping out to the Eastern Pacific, we have Invest 96E. Invest 96E currently has an 80% chance of development over the next 48 hours and a 90% chance of development over the next 7 days. This is not forecast to bend back, as we could see here. There is another area, if we come to day 7, as you can see, Invest 96E out here into the open waters, cooler sea surface temperatures, more stable air. One behind it we may have to watch for. If we click and confirm that with the Euro AI, as you could see, day 7, we don't have much for our first wave. The Euro AI wants to flatten this out potentially and push it off to the west, although it could hang around and potentially come back towards land. If we compare all of this with the GEFS, that's a totally different story. As you can see here, day 7, we have Invest 96E running out this way, pretty much dying over this area here. But then when we push this to day 10, it's that one behind it that could end up coming up like this. All depending on where it's located, where it develops, how far south, how far west. That's the key. If it's more north and east, it's probably going to hit land. And last but not least, we have Tropical Depression number 23W. This moved over the northern island of Luzon there into the Philippines, causing quite a bit of rainfall and the potential for flash flooding. Invest 90W is the star of the show, though. As you can see, with our tropical depression, is forecast to get back to storm status as it gets towards the southern portions of China, here in and around the Hong Kong region. I'm going to pop back over to DeepMind, and we're going to come back to day 0. We are going to then come over here to the Western Pacific, and as you can see, there's 23W, but look at the clustering on this thing. Look at this. This is very, very tight clustering, very, 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 very strong signal, and as you can see, this is insanity. The intensity distribution for September the 22nd, knowing that the ensemble models run 50 ensemble members, 40 of them have this as a category 4. That's an 80% probability from the Google DeepMind that this next one, and in the Philippines it is called Nando. They have named it a tropical depression. But it is not named by the Joint Typhoon Warning Center yet. But we're talking about 40 out of the 50 ensemble members being Category 4. 2 of those, of the remaining 10, 2 of those are Category 5. Of those remaining 8, 6 of those are category 7, category 7, listen to me. Category 3. So you have 48 out of the 50 ensemble members that are calling for this to be the equivalent of a major hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson wind scale. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. Huge. So, folks, we really, really need to keep a watch on this, because if I run this out to September 22nd to get it in line with where these are calling for right here, look where the ensemble members are located. All of these would either go just north of Luzon in the Philippines or potentially clip the northern portions of the island. And you're talking about that? I almost slipped. You almost heard a curse word come out of my mouth. Because, bleep that right there. Because that's bad. That's real bad. All eyes on this. Folks in the Philippines, China, my heart goes out to y'all on this one. That's a very, very strong signal of an absolute monster. And it don't look good. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to check in. Category 7. Yeah, I slipped. I slipped. So, all right, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here for tonight. We will be back live at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central here on Facebook and YouTube. To the commenter on YouTube that has put the comment in Spanish, I will get somebody over there to answer your question here shortly. I, unfortunately, am not bilingual and do not possess the abilities to translate or I can answer it once somebody can, actually convey the question to me. I will be able to answer it, or any of our team members will be as well. But trying to understand the question is my difficulty there. So I do apologize for that, but we will have somebody over there right after the live stream ends. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll talk to you